back to the HaneyBiz Project with investorpreneur Mark Haney, coming to you from the Marquee Media Studio.
Hey, what's up? This is Greg Van Dusen subbing for Mark today, and we are here with Harold Pressley, a longtime friend of mine, the tallest guest we've ever had on the show, and very possibly the nicest human being who's ever worn a Sacramento Kings uniform. How you doing, Harold?
Life is lovely. I am so blessed. Things are going great. I just got introduced by hearing the Beatles. What could be better?
Well, I'm glad you're old enough to remember who the Beatles were.
Right.
So, Harold, you were a national champion in your junior year, I think, of college.
Correct.
At Villanova.
Correct.
Raleigh Massimino was the coach.
That's my guy.
There's a famous photo of you on a ladder doing what?
Cutting down the net from that championship game.
Yeah, do you still have the net, or who's got the net?
I actually have my mom has the piece that I took.
All right.
That was actually really a wonderful time. I didn't realize I was the last one to take a piece off. So I got the entire net and took it down and didn't even know what I was doing. I just ran over to our longtime trainer who was 50 years at Villanova. I believe he was 78 years old. He was battling Lou Gehrig's, and he was in a wheelchair. I just ran over and I put it on his head, over his head, on his neck, and gave him a kiss. And it just hit me. His birthday was last month, and I was like, whoa. I saw a picture of him with the net on it, and it just, all the memories came back. It was so beautiful.
I remember that. I was part of the Kings an arena organization when you were drafted, and we were hoping and hoping and hoping that you would last until the 17th pick that year. How did you feel about getting picked by a franchise that had a history of, it's kind of like now, not being that good?
I was so shocked. I actually was sitting in the room with all my teammates and coach at Villanova, and a call came in, you're going to be selected next by the Sacramento Kings. I turned around, looked at my teammates to figure out who was messing around with me. And they flat out asked me, what do you know about Sacramento? I said, I didn't know Sacramento had a team. But I'm thrilled. And then I did my research and found out the players, and it became such a wonderful thing. The next day I was on a plane. I landed in Sacramento. I remember clearly. Julie Fye met me at the airport, took me around. And before I got back on the plane 2-3 days later, I said, I will live in Sacramento forever. And my kids don't believe that story, but that's exactly what happened.
Well, I know you well enough to believe it. So what was it like? Did we open on the road or at home that year?
We were home, and I didn't get to play.
So what did you think about those crazy fans?
It was so electrifying. I was, coming from college, coming from Villanova, where we won the national championship and we had crowds. I was like, yeah, whatever. It's going to be a crowd. The loudness of the arena and the cowbells and all the different things that was going on, it was so much fun. The only part that wasn't was Phil Johnson didn't play me that game. And after a nice little preseason playing extremely well, I thought I was going to be the man. And I sat down and I got to play the second game. Which was really nice, and I had a really good game. So at that point, I thought, yes, he understands, I can play. And it took a while for me to get back in the game.
And you could play. Was that Phil's last year?
That was his last year.
Okay, so I remember this pretty well. You guys had a game at the Forum.
Yes.
In Los Angeles.
Oh, yes.
And what do you recall the score after the first quarter?
Yeah, 42-4.
That's correct. And
we were down.
42-4. That might still be a record.
It's a record.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's a record you don't want to be a part of, but at least people are talking about it.
I don't think Phil was the coach the next morning, was he?
He got fired the very next morning.
Yeah.
Yes. It was.
He was a good guy, but that wasn't a good job.
That was absolutely. Well, again, coming from where I came from, it was the first time I experienced losing, and I didn't know how to handle it. But I actually got a call from one of my very close friends to this day, who was the last person cut from that '86 team, Bill Nelson. He said, "What's going on in Sacramento?" He said, "You won't believe this. We just lost 17 games, and the crowd is at the airport waiting for us to come back, cheering us that we did a wonderful job." And I was just like, these people are either nuts or they just really love their Sacramento Kings.
Or both.
Or both. And it was such a, to have that happen after that stretch of losses, just told me, you hang in there, and you gotta, this is a place to be. This is the place you want to live if they still love you after losing.
Yeah, well, I was fortunate to work with the people who owned the team and the arena, and it was our passion, our entrepreneurial passion, to make Sacramento a major league city. And the Kings were the first and still only major league franchise in Sacramento, and so the fans' love affair with the Kings goes on today.
Yes. And, there's been some rough time. Obviously, that 2002, 2004 team was outstanding, but the fans are still coming back. It's been a stretch here where I do believe that things are turning around. I see the players, and I'm going to let you in on a little secret that I believe they're going to take the kid from Spain this year.
Doncic?
Yes, and that is the perfect selection. He is an outstanding player. He can really elevate this team. He's a winner, and so he's a piece that this team needs. And I really think it's headed the right direction.
That's a key word, is piece. You build it one piece at a time.
Yes.
I've never seen the Kings, and I've been following them since '82, right, professionally, since we were in Kansas City. I've never seen them take this approach to player and team development, and I know that's true of you too. Can you tell us, from your professional experience, what makes it different this time?
Let's look at the Golden State Warriors, who is obviously top team in the league for the last several years. How did they do it? They did it through the draft. It's going to be very difficult for a team like the Kings in a small market to entice people to come into town. So you're really going to have to do it through the draft. Get a good team, just as the Warriors did. Grab Steph Curry, grab Klay Thompson, grab Green, grab that core. People will want to come later. The Kevin Durants will want to come to a situation like that. And the Kings are doing the same approach. And that's really the way they're going to have to do it. They're not going to drag somebody. They're not going to drag LeBron James to Sacramento the way it is now.
So how important is it to get guys who are able to play the same style and have good character and the ability to get along?
You will not get it done without good character. You might as well just blow the whole thing up and just toss it all away, because if you don't have people on the same page, you don't have that core group that can lead and teach the younger kids, you're just going to create a mess. And you got to have quality people. And you got to have quality people from the top. It really begins with the leadership. Once you get that established, the rest of it will fall into place. I tell everybody that the players will fall into place. When I arrived at Villanova University, they had a couple of seniors on the team, John Pannone and Stuart Granger. And I remember John grabbed me one day and he said, "This is the way we do it, Rook. Get it right." And from that day, I was like, okay, you straighten up and you do exactly what is supposed to be done. My senior year, I grabbed Doug West, who became a heck of an NBA player, and I grabbed him the same way John grabbed me. I said, "This is not going to happen. We're not going to miss out on the NCAA tournament while I'm here, and we're going to do things the right way." And from that day on, we just marched along and got into the NCAA tournament. You have to be able to follow your leaders.
That's great stuff. Now you're involved in a lot of businesses,
yes,
as well as the Treat 'em Like a King Foundation, where you help underprivileged kids. So the structure that you're talking about with leadership, character, culture, that's necessary to have a winning team in athletics. How does that differ, or does it differ at all from what you have to have in business?
Does not differ at all. I actually had a nice conversation with a guy who's taking care of an awful lot of people, and the one thing he said was, I love athletes. I want to work with athletes because I know they have the drive to get it done, and they're not going to settle for losing. They're not going to settle for a half job. They're going to continue until they complete the task. It's the same in all business. You got to have a good team with you. Kaiser, I mean, that whole story of how it began in the desert, and they figured out that we have to take care of people. We got to take care of the people who are working. And if we get this stuff together, they're going to just come along. And I'm a member of Kaiser. We started back in 2010. And we would never change because of the way they treat you, the way you feel when you walk into the building. You know that they're going to help you. They're there to make sure that you get well. And it's not all this running around. Let's send this person here. Let's send that person there. No, you're here. Let's take care of you. And I absolutely love that. And I think that's what all businesses should follow.
It's that culture.
That's the culture.
So, speaking of culture, you've created quite a culture with your Treat 'em Like a King Foundation. Tell us some of the things you do there.
Oh my, Treat 'em Like a King started back in 1996. I started the paperwork in 95. We opened doors for a group home of 6 children in 96. The children were 5 years old at the time. And 9 years later, I just thought, we got to do more. We have to help more people. And then we started doing things like Christmas for kids and providing all the toys that they needed to just make them smile. If you can get a kid to smile, you can get them to start listening. And it turned into, they need more help. How do we get the kids to understand that school is so important? Well, let's throw a big party and give them all the backpacks and the clothes that they need to get back on the first day. And the reason that happened was growing up, I remember in the 7th grade, junior high school, 8th grade rather, some of my friends just would not show up the first day of school. And when I finally dug into it, why didn't you come? It was the first day. It's exciting. You got new clothes, you got new books, you got all this new. She's, I don't have that kind of stuff. I don't have new clothes. I don't have. And my heart just dropped. And, the first chance I got, I said, we have to get these kids clothes, and we have to get them to where they feel good enough to go to the first day of school, because that's so important. Once you feel like you're in and you fit in as a child, I know adults, you can get around this, but as children, you want to be like other people. As you go older, you could care less about that. But when you start out, when you're that age, you want to feel like you fit in. And it became a tough year for the friends that I had because they had such a tough start and not feeling like they belong in the school with the rest of the people.
Yeah, so you're outfitting how many kids with backpacks and school supplies?
Oh, it's getting tough. It's growing every year. We started with just 15, 20. It got up to 100. And last year we took care of 2,500 kids.
2,500. Now,
yeah,
what's your website?
It's getting tough. tlkfoundation.org.
tlkfoundation.org. If you want to get involved with Harold's culture, you can hear his heart as he speaks to you today. If you want to get involved with his culture, which is a winning culture, and helping kids in this region, tlkfoundation.org. Harold, I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You're an absolute winner. It's been a treat to be your friend for over 30 years.
3 years.
And our whole community is just blessed that you're still here. We'll be back with some closing thoughts with Marcus as he's coming back. And we want to thank some of our sponsors. We want to thank Ethan Conrad Properties and financial advisors Stiefel, led by the Evans-Botkins team here in Roseville. We'll be right back with closing thoughts at the HaneyBiz Project after this.